The dreadful Vladimir Putin has given the arrogant, complacent West a right royal kick up the arse. As president of Russia, an economically insignificant country, Vlad the Mad, the monster behind the shocking carnage that we're seeing right now at the moment on the news wires as a result of the invasion of Ukraine, is leaving his blood-stained mark on the world. This pint-sized dictator's appalling decision to start a war with Ukraine has put our absurd two-year overreaction to a seasonal respiratory virus into perspective. In fact, the horrific actions of old Vladimir have had the consequence of basically ending the pandemic by shifting focus. Have you heard a squeak about vaccines or case numbers or hospitalizations since he entered Ukraine? Absolutely not. Because for the last 2 years, the West didn't have anything better to do than bankrupt itself, junk its own values, and destroy its own societies for a nasty virus, yes, but one that largely threatens the very old and the ill, like a good number of other diseases, I think you'll find. We've had it too good in the West for too long. We are spoiled brats and are now paying the price. We've been fussing over which pronouns to use, obsessing over our history, which is largely glorious. We've been living on a diet of borrowed public money, and we've been spending precious resources appointing diversity officers and painting rainbow pedestrian crossings everywhere, the only consequence of which I can find is to confuse guide dogs for the blind. And we've walked blindly into this crisis. He started it, of course, but we in the West could and should have stopped him sooner. Vladimir Putin, President Xi of China, and the 2021 Slimmer of the Year, North Korea's Kim Jong-un, close to his target weight now, just needs to cut the carbs, well, they've all been tooling up and boosting their military power. And you can be sure that terror organizations like ISIS have done much the same. We've even given that hateful mob of gangsters, the Taliban, their own country, Afghanistan, and the huge arsenal of weapons, tanks, planes, helicopters and ammunition that we left behind. And on the back of the billions that Germany, Italy and others have been paying for Russian gas, old Vladimir has also been rearming and topping up his own nuclear arsenal, whilst we here in Britain have spent the last 2 years being paid to stay at home, getting even fatter on fast food, binge-watching Netflix, tweeting about how unfair the world is, trying to get people sacked for having an opinion or telling a joke, and announcing to anyone who cares that we are now he, him, she, her, or they, them. Well, we're buggered. That's what we actually are. China is the real story behind this, of course, and they can't wait to get their dirty mitts on Taiwan, and they won't stop there. As China marches on to become the world's predominant economic and military superpower, here in Britain we've been deleting problematic episodes of Fawlty Towers and sacking college professors for saying that men have testicles and women have a cervix. Well, here in the West, we've got no balls. As we've allowed our collective national debts to spiral, accelerated, of course, during the pandemic, we have, for decades now, underinvested in the military. We thought we were so clever. We thought we'd won the arguments. We thought we'd won the moral high ground. And we thought we'd won the war. In fact, we'd won nothing. And we now risk losing everything. Putin is an evil monster, but one of our own making. He is the monster we fed. For too long, we underestimated him and enriched him as a result of our own baffling green policies. Why drill for the coal, gas and shale beneath our very feet when we can buy it from dangerous dictators? Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Putin has achieved a lot in the last 2 weeks, not least causing DFS to sell out of extra-large dining tables. You know what they say, big table, small ego. We'll have to get around that table very soon with this awful man, because I suspect that a negotiated settlement friendly to Russia is our only way out of this. Putin's rise has exposed all Western countries' economic, diplomatic, strategic and military arrogance, their short-sightedness and their incompetence. Our bizarre obsession with so-called safety over the last 2 years will feel like a sick joke when we confront the extraordinary peril of a global nuclear conflict, which could see all of us perish. That's what danger looks like. As Michael P. Senger, who's written a book about China and joins me later in the show, points out. In this tweet, he says the response to COVID has cost the United States over $16 trillion. That's over $50,000 per person. Do you feel like you got your $50,000 worth? Imagine that. $16 trillion. Just half a trillion invested in Russia, perhaps with favourable trading terms or even investment, could have prevented the horrors that we are now witnessing. The West rejected Russia's desire to enter NATO in the early 2000s at the start of Putin's reign, and we sent Russia running into the arms of China. That is the axis of evil times 100. Putin's appalling invasion of Ukraine changes everything, and the world will not be the same again. Boris is saved, by the way. He's been brilliant so far, engaging with world leaders, supporting Ukraine and striking just the right tone. And that's it for the pandemic too. The fat lady has sung and she's on her way home in a cab. I don't want to hear a syllable about case rates or variants ever again. You can either worry about a nasty flu virus or worry about a radioactive mushroom cloud, courtesy of Moscow, hanging over London, Birmingham, Cardiff, Belfast, Liverpool, Manchester or Edinburgh. Britain and the West need to man up, tool up and grow a pair. And we must come together as one nation, Great Britain, irrespective of race, colour, creed or religion. Our diversity in Britain is our strength, not our weakness. As long as cranks on social media and in our institutions flogging dodgy ideology don't divide us in the way that they want to. Ukrainians have taught us an important lesson, that it's a strong sense of patriotism, nationhood and unity which are the ultimate weapon against an assault from the likes of Putin. He underestimated the good people of Ukraine who have come together and now fight for their country. I interviewed a woman in Kiev this week who spoke to me from a cupboard and who had a Kalashnikov rifle by her side. So what is the plan of action for the West to see off this existential threat? Our economy must be a total priority for the foreseeable future, because as well as schools, hospitals and the police, it's the economy that will pay for the colossal military investment that we now need. That means a massive army, navy and air force, and it means sophisticated nuclear weapons, tanks, helicopters and planes. That's what staying safe looks like. Not wearing a rag on your mush, having a squirt of hand sanitizer as you go to Morrison's, or following a one-way system of arrows in boots. We have to have energy independence as well. Net zero is gone. It's over. Another thing that Putin has unwittingly put the kibosh on. I want us to go green, and we will. But right now we are at war, even if many haven't realised it yet. We've got 500 years worth of coal beneath our feet. Let's get digging. We've got at least 2 decades of North Sea oil. Drill, baby, drill. And rather than concrete up shale gas sites, let's go fracking crazy. The West can win, folks, but only if we man up and wake up too.